This week on the Travel Show, I'm in Windsor.
In our Royal Special, we'll give you our guide to get the best out of the most talked about wedding this year.
On May the 19th, these streets are going to be absolutely rammed.
English barley to represent Harry, with West Coast US hops to represent Meghan.
We'll give you some tips on the very British art of queuing.
To be honest, I haven't even really come for the tennis, I've just come to queue.
I think we're really good at queuing. Yeah.
Queuing's definitely British.
And we jump on board the QE2 as she finally reopens as a floating hotel in Dubai. In a couple of weeks' time, on May the 19th, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will get married in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. Windsor has a long history with the royals. Its castle is one of the Queen's favourite weekend retreats, and Prince Harry was educated at nearby Eton College.
Now I'm here on this beautiful spring day to visit a local brewery that's toasting the occasion with a specially made pint, which is lucky because I'm feeling proper thirsty. Never ceases to amaze me like how much is going on when you come into a brewery.
Matt is mashing in the mash tun up there.
Yeah.
He's running the second brew of the day. Steve is flushing out the copper, where he's run the first brew of the day. He's cleaning hops out of that. And meanwhile, Alex here is filling casks with our commemorative royal wedding beer, by the way. We're combining English barley to represent Harry, with West Coast US hops to represent Meghan. And we like to think it's a nice marriage of its ingredients.
So this is all wedding beer going on here.
We're full of wedding beer. Just
A
have
bag
a
of
little
goodies.
smell of that.
Oh, that smells lovely.
What is this? Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, it's quite fruity actually, I think.
It's absolutely like jelly babies, isn't it?
Yes,
Do you get that?
yeah, that's right. That's
Isn't that
right.
fantastic?
But,
Now-
but it's incongruous with how it looks.
Now, take a cone of that hop.
What is this?
This is a cone of the hop. Now, what I do is put it in one hand and just rub it with the fingers the other hand.
Oh, that smells beautiful.
Isn't that fantastic?
That is really.
Now, English hops are lovely, but you can't get these sort of flavours from English hops. To produce this kind of beer, to produce a beer with that fruity aroma, you have to use hops from parts of the world with more intense sunlight, more ultraviolet light.
yeah.
So you can see it's science, but there's also a lot of art and passion in it as well.
Here's to Harry and Meghan. It's lovely.
Windsor is only a short train ride out of London, and it's reckoned around 100,000 well-wishers will show up here to see the royal procession.
On May the 19th, these streets are going to be absolutely rammed. It's going to be heaving, I'm telling you. And there are even reports that some hotels are charging up to £10,000 for a single suite overlooking the procession. So if crowded spaces are not your thing, this place is not going to be your cup of tea on the big day.
There are other ways to experience the occasion outside of Windsor. Let's head over to the capital, where a number of outdoor screenings and street parties are planned. Now, every self-respecting tourist leaves London with a royal face mask or a tea towel. But how do you find a future collector's item?
Every Thursday, this place, Old Spitalfields Market, holds its weekly antique fair. Now, I'm a bit of a novice at this, but let's see what I can dig up. Hello. Have a look at this. It's a proper mug with Harry and Meghan on the front in the year they're getting married. It's going to be worth a fortune in a few years. Look at it, it's beautiful.
Time to get it evaluated by a real antiques expert.
So Mark, I've been looking around this market, and this is what I found, this rather lovely, cute little piece. What do you think?
I'm going to chuck it right back at you and say, what do you think of it? Why did you buy it?
How very dare you? No, actually, it's so obvious why I bought it. It's got the couple of the moment, probably the most famous couple in the world. How can you resist it?
There's nothing wrong with it. What we're looking at is a mass-produced, moulded factory or cast factory-produced piece with a transfer print over the top. It's purely what it is. It's a mug to celebrate an occasion for which we'll all come together, a little ray of sunshine in our world of doom, gloom, dictators and death, I suppose.
Are you mugging me off? So, I mean, as a royal souvenir hunter, what would you look for? What are your tips?
If you're looking for something that might go up in value or certainly hold its value, quality, 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 limited editions, and buy something with visual appeal. If you like it, it's highly likely there'll be plenty of people out there who do too. So I'm going to take your mug and I'm going to raise you with my lidded pot. Turning it over, we can see on the base of it, it's by a company called Moorcroft, who are one of the great British ceramics companies. Can you see it's numbered just there, 39 over 100?
Yeah.
That shows that only 100 of these will ever be made, of which this is number 39. A story is always great. So the scallop shells were initially used by the Spencer family, and of course Lady Diana Spencer married Prince Charles. Since then, her sons William and Harry have adopted the scallop shell, the Spencer family emblem, or one of them, in their coats of arms, which of course Meghan is marrying into. So you've got fabulous heritage in Moorcroft and a fantastic connection with Harry and the royal family.
All right, well, I'm not quite sure how to say this, but thank you, Mark.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for all your help.
Happy hunting.
Yes, thank you, and enjoy your Moorcroft funny thing. After all that hunting around, you will probably be tired and you need to find somewhere to bed down for the night. Now, if a palace is out of your price range, I know somewhere else that will give you a right royal welcome.
We're in Wembley, where the FA Cup final will be held on the same day as the wedding. It's more famous for its national football stadium than its 5-star accommodation.
Hello, Margaret.
Hello, nice to see you.
Lovely
Welcome
to meet
to
you.
Heritage
Oh,
House.
thank you.
Margaret is one of the UK's biggest collectors of royal memorabilia. And wouldn't you know it, she's letting out rooms during the wedding weekend.
Margaret, looking around, I don't know where to start. I've never seen so much memorabilia in my life.
I know, it is a lot. I think it's around the 10,000 mark. But of course, when you have more royal babies, you have more royal memorabilia. And, well, I've been collecting for almost 40 years and it seemed a shame not to share it. Because if people like the royal family, which obviously they do if they come here, I like to share it with them.
That's when you decided to turn this into a B&B.
Yes, yes. For William and Kate's wedding, I had quite a lot of American people. And the chappie came in and he stood here with his mouth open and he didn't say a word. I mean, Harry looks so much in love and we so want things to go well for Harry. He was that little boy walking behind his mother's coughing. And we want life to be good for him. He wants a family. We want that for him.
And so much more memorabilia to
Yes,
collect.
yeah, I know. I should be out in the street soon. Honestly, it's that bad now.
And after all that excitement, you can retire to your quarters.
There's nothing like a royal wedding to bring a nation together. And it feels like the whole world is really looking forward to the big day, the 19th of May. That's all because of this lovely couple. Night, night, Harry. Night, night, Meghan. And And if you're planning on heading to the UK anytime soon, here's our travel show guides to all the things you could be doing while you're here.
Liverpool Biennial is a celebration of contemporary art that takes place every 2 years across the city in public spaces, galleries and museums. The festival commissions international artists to make and present work in the context of Liverpool. Running between the 14th of July to the 28th of October, this one marks 20 years of presenting international art in the city and region.
When it comes to quintessentially English sporting events, then it doesn't get more spectacular than the Royal Henley Regatta.
Every first weekend of July, a mixture of serious rowers, socialites and sun worshippers gather on the banks of the River Thames in Berkshire's town of Henley for 5 days of racing. The festival, which attracts international rowing crews, is one of the highlights of the British summer social calendar. And finally, 2018 is the 40th anniversary of Europe's largest hot air balloon event, which sees more than 150 hot air balloons take to the skies at dusk and dawn from Bristol. The free event attracts hundreds of thousands of people each year, and you can also enjoy helicopter and balloon rides, family entertainment, plus acoustic music and fairground rides.
Still to come on the travel show,
How to queue the very British way. And we climb on board the QE2 as she finally opens as a floating hotel in Dubai.
There was never a point when the future of the QE2 was going to be to the scrapyards.
the travel show, your essential guide wherever you're heading.
Now, if you're coming to the UK for the wedding or just for a visit, it might be a good idea to get used to something that the British are renowned for doing quite well: queuing. Some say we've almost turned it into an art form, and nowhere will you find it on better display than at the most British of sporting occasions, Wimbledon.
Queuing, we're number one. 2, gin and tonic, and 3, Wimbledon.
I think the British have kind of an obsession with queuing.
To be honest, I haven't even really come for the tennis, I've just come to queue.
I think we're really good at queuing. Yeah, I think this is an example of how good we are.
I'd say they're proud of how they queue. Something we're born with, I think.
Clearly created the art of queuing, as I said with my Caribbean accent. It's quite civilized.
The idea of the British being good at queuing comes from this idea that the Brits are all about fair play and equal chances. It is that sense of taking your turn, not pushing in. Anything that looks like you are trying to get an unfair advantage over other people is an absolute no-no.
Queue jumpers where?
That's the one thing which riles a traditional Brit. Someone who queue jumps, it's not cricket. It's just not what we do.
It's just common respect, really, courtesy.
We want to be good at queuing. We want to be good at queuing. It doesn't mean to say that we actually are. The fact that we get so stressed in queues on a regular basis, the tensions over who gets on the bus first.
Like when you go abroad and you see people that aren't queuing, you get really pent up inside, don't you? Go all British.
I think with all myths there's an element of truth. For example, queuing up for rations in the Second World War. Queuing was very much part of the intense propaganda effort that the government started. All the posters, all the radio broadcasts, all the newsreels, it was part of that moment of British courage, resolve, and all those kinds of things that make a good story. And therefore, queuing as part of that has become something of a myth.
It's got to be historic. It's got to be way back when, probably when war was polite.
Queuing's definitely British, but it's not as important as the Queen.
We are quite nostalgic for the 1940s and the 1950s. There are so many kind of images of VE Day, of triumph, of success, of Britain being a major player. And they are very kind of powerful and seductive images of what Britain was. In that sense, looking back at the 1940s and the 1950s, and things that look like certainties, like the ability of British people to queue politely, perhaps they are things that seem appealing to us at a time when things seem deeply uncertain, both nationally and internationally.
Now, it was just over 50 years ago that Queen Elizabeth II launched the ocean liner that proudly bore her name, the legendary QE2. And throughout the 1970s and 80s, the ship was perhaps the classiest and most elegant way to cross the Atlantic. But times and tastes change, and in 2007, the QE2 was sold to a company in Dubai, where she's been ever since. But although her sailing days are over, she's finally getting ready to welcome people back on board, this time as a floating hotel and museum. So we went to take a look around.
What makes the QE2 special is her class, her style, her sense of history, her heritage. And when you walk on board, it's like really walking back into a bygone era of class and sophistication. In the evenings, we used to have ballroom dancing in the Queen's Room, which is the replica that we're in right now. And we used to employ gentlemen hosts because there were a great number of single ladies that were traveling with us. So also being part of the crew staff, I had to learn how to dance. Now, quite terrifying when you're South African with 2 left feet. It was a little interesting. So thank goodness we had this easy to follow step guide. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Despite her illustrious past, like Concorde, the QE2 was eventually taken out of service. She had become uneconomic to operate and upgrade, and when she arrived in Dubai in the middle of the global financial crisis, many feared that her next stop could be the breaker's yard.
Contrary to popular belief, there was never a point when the future of the QE2 was going to be to the scrapyards. That is a fate that happens to decommissioned ships, but it has never been Dubai's plan to do so.
And today, Ken is back working on the ship. This time, not as a member of the crew, but as the man charged with promoting the ship as a new floating hotel and museum.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a blessing to welcome aboard the QE2. Now, when they designed her hull, there were 2 things that she had to be able to do. She had to be able to go through the Panama Canal, which means that she had to be narrow enough to go through the canal, and she had to go through the Suez Canal.
To take her out of the water, while perhaps feasible, would really take the charm and the beauty of her heritage and history out. So she is a floating hotel. When the winds blow and the waves are coming in, you know, we do list, and that gives you that little feel of a truly being on an ocean liner.
For almost 40 years, the QE2 carried film stars, millionaires, and even soldiers heading to the Falklands War when the ship was commandeered by the British government in 1982. But her new owners say that their aim is to restore her to her original glory with a few modern touches along the way.
The Queen Elizabeth Suite is the suite that she stayed in. We took great care to try to recraft that room, keeping as much as possible the existing furniture, refurbishing the looks that's there. That if we would have the privilege of the Queen coming back to visit, it would be almost as if she just stepped back in time, from the last time that she stepped, out of that room.
For over 20 years, this was the largest cinema theatre afloat come through.
Strict laws here in Dubai prohibit gambling, so these original QE2 slot machines have been restored for decoration only. But other forms of entertainment are remaining retro and decidedly transatlantic.
This really was one of the great social areas of the ship. So we've actually made this into a theatre dinner area. So you can sit here, you can order a light menu, you can actually sit and enjoy your meal while you're watching your show, which I think is almost pretty unique to Dubai. So we're looking forward to introducing that to everybody over here.
There's no denying that this new hotel is definitely different for Dubai, a place that's so far been obsessed with everything shiny and new. It will no doubt be popular with nostalgic Brits, but it's also essential that the local market take the ship to their hearts too. However, no matter how much interest there is in the QE2, it looks like her days at sea are well and truly over.
No, the engines haven't been removed, but for our plans, she will never sail. And part of the reason why she was decommissioned in the first place was to comply with the new rules and regulations of running that ship, made it financially unfeasible for Cunard to continue her. So, we think that keeping her afloat was very important, but she will not sail again.
I walked off the ship 17 years ago with a tear in my eye, said goodbye to her in the Bahamas, and I never dreamt that I would be back on board. And to realize that we are back on board the QE2, having the most amazing time. Once again, our beautiful lady is not dead, and people are on board her, having a lot of fun, and it's been a fantastic evening tonight.
See the glimmering lights shining so bright, turning night to day. Only in New York, on Fifth Avenue, I see the dames in their curls, dripping with pearls. Ah, what a view!
So that's it for this week on The Travel Show. Join us next week when
Mike Corey explores the Filipino capital, Manila.
It's cheap, they're relatively quick given the traffic, and it's really the best way to get around if you want to save some money.
He finds out why it might be the end of the road for the city's famous souped-up former army jeepneys.
So make sure you join us for that if you can. And in the meantime, you can keep up with all our travels in real time on the road by following us on social media. But for now, from me, Adir Depitan, and all the Travel Show team here in lovely Windsor, it's ta-ta.